Good morning, good afternoon, good day. Let's just hope it's good something. How's everybody doing out there? Fernando, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I have a heartbeat.
That's awesome.
It could be. Well, it is, of course. We have a Nissan Titan right behind us. This big white one here. We're putting in a Pioneer radio. That's about it. Like always, we're gonna take you along for the ride. Doesn't that sound like fun?
Sounds totally fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like that.
We're gonna use some best kit parts. Let's take a look and see which ones we're gonna use for this bad boy and get going. All right, so for a dash kit, we're gonna use this guy, the BK&DK 7523 dash kit. He's got the digital air conditioner, so this will retain that. We got a whole bunch of harnesses here. We have the 7552 as well as we have the 7553. This has the Rockford Fosgate system, so the RCAs we may use, we may not though, depending on how hot the input is on the factory amplifier. Sometimes it's better to use these. Sometimes it's better just to go line level in because it's not loud enough if you don't. So we're gonna play, we'll get back to that. We're also going to, it may be the older harness, so he went ahead and gave me this guy here, which is the old 7551 wiring harness. We have an antenna adapter, we may need one of those. Looks like Paul just gave me everything. Of course we have a micro bypass. He has satellite radio, wants to retain it, so we're gonna use a SAT1. And of course an aux cable, which we may or may not need. No, we're gonna need it. This kit doesn't have provision for it anymore. We're gonna go ahead over into the car. This is the SVX 300 Sirius XM tuner. We won't need to run the antenna because we have this. We'll use the factory antenna, which is that guy right there. So let's join Fernando in the car and get this radio out of the dash. Now, when you're taking one of these dashes apart, this is a dash like a typical Nissan where the dash is made out of eggshells. Really, it is. This one isn't cracked, but a lot of these are. So when you're working on cars like this, go slow, take your time, be real gentle with pressure points because it'll just go poof, and then you'll be like, oh God. Join us as we start to take this dash apart. Let's get inside here. Thing to note about Nissan is that if you have a piece that you removed and it has an airbag light indicator in it, if that is unplugged and you turn the car on, it is going to trip the airbag light. It can be reset, but to avoid it, just go ahead and remove it from the kit, plug it in, let it do its thing in the car while you're working on it. Then, you know, in case you have to turn the car on or off or anything like that, just to make your life a little less painful. Here you go, buddy. So now if we need to turn the key on, we won't get the cool airbag light in the dash. All right, so the first thing we want to do is remove this air conditioning control panel. To do that, there's 4 T10 Torx screws, 2 located here and 2 located here. Go ahead and remove those and lift the unit up and out. Now we've already removed the airbag sensor right here, so at this point, we're pretty much done with this kit. We may also need to remove these panel clips. We'll come back to it if we do. So let's go ahead and open the dash kit, take a look at what we have inside. I like bubble wrapped bags, but I don't like it when they seal them up like this, because then you have to cut them open and you run the risk of scratching the paint, and this is definitely a nice painted kit. We'll save this and put the original radio back in it. So we have 2 instruction manuals. One is for the double DIN kit and one is for the single DIN kit. Has a bag of clips, so I'm guessing these clips are gonna go on to here, so we don't need to remove the ones from the factory. It also has a little tiny, this guy right here. This is a sticker. What we're gonna need to do for this is we're gonna have to remove the factory airbag light cover off of the factory kit, and it's gonna stick back onto here. We'll do that in a minute. Bag of screws. All right, so we have the single DIN, have a double DIN. These are for the single DIN, these are for the double DIN. These are for the single DIN. This actually has 2 full kits in it. If you're somebody that likes to save a bunch of parts, you have a full single DIN kit right here. All right, so this is the piece right here that we need to get off. Give it a push from behind. Make sure when you put it back on that you put it, you know, straight. Go ahead and mount this in the bag that this came with, because we're done with this for now. Oh, and don't forget to transfer over the screws for the airbag. All right, now we can put the air conditioning controls back in. All right, so this part of the kit is all done. We can set this aside. Now for this install, we're gonna do a 7-inch Pioneer, which is good because the way this dash kit is built, the 6.2-inch would probably look pretty bad because you want that extra distance here on the side. You want this thing to stick out further here. Otherwise, when you go to slide the radio in, like if you go with a smaller display screen, see how this is level like this? Those smaller display screens sit in 1/4 of an inch more. It's gonna look like this. It's gonna be recessed in. it's gonna look bad. Go ahead and get this screwed in. Now, if your screws aren't lining up, don't be afraid to cut the plastic to make them fit right. Putting the screws in sideways puts a bunch of undue stress on it and can cause the front to not line up properly. And when you're dealing with a kit like this that's really tight, you want to make sure that it's not like that, because your gapping becomes very important, or the radio will hit the kit when it goes to open and close. All right, so looking at the factory radio, we're gonna go ahead and remove these. We're gonna go ahead and remove these. Now we're good to go. So one of the things we're doing is retaining the factory Sirius XM, and where the antenna is located, this is it here. If you follow, this is the factory amplifier. So here's the gas pedal right here. If you follow the gas pedal up, this plug right here, this is the factory amplifier. And then over here on the side, way up here by my finger, is where this pink connector is gonna be plugged in. It'll be plugged in right over there. So go ahead and unplug that, and then it'll loop around the steering column here, and then you can go ahead and plug the SAT1 antenna adapter right into it. And then you can mount the brain somewhere nearby, up in this area here, so that it'll reach up into the dash. Okay, so we just checked the dash, and all these things that Paul gave me, I don't need. This particular Nissan uses the older harness, which is what I call the white and black harness. This Nissan harness is a little bit different than other harnesses, so we're gonna talk about it briefly for a minute. On it, you have a blue wire on this harness, which is the big main harness. This is a amplified antenna turn on, so you're gonna wanna hook that up to your red wire. Red wire is accessory, yellow wire is memory or constant, black wire is ground, orange wire is illumination. You have your speaker wires. White is driver's front, gray is passenger front. Now on your secondary harness, you have a blue-white wire, which is the amp turn on. So this is gonna go to the blue-white wire on your aftermarket radio. And then you have a black-white wire. This is a secondary ground for the signal. So this black-white is just gonna go to the black wire. And then you have purple, which is passenger rear, and green, which is driver's rear. The one thing to keep in note is a lot of the times Nissan doesn't actually put a ground out of their main harness. So what we like to do is anytime we do a Nissan is just go ahead and run a secondary ground off of here. We're gonna solder into this, and we'll go ahead and ground it into the dash somewhere. Because a lot of the times the ground for the radios, actually when they screw it in, these brackets, this is the ground. And we're going plastic, so you lose that ground. All right, so we have it all soldered up. We're gonna go ahead and tape it up. We went with the non-RCA set here, even though it has the Rockford system. It's a low enough output that if we did the RCAs, it didn't sound as good, so we went ahead and just ran these. We did test it. It's a little louder, a little quicker than I would hope for, but still sounds really good. This is our big ground wire we were talking about, and then we also went ahead and added a remote turn-on wire, just in case if he ever wants to add a sub amp down the road. All right, let's go ahead and meet up with Fernando in the car and check on his progress. All right, so progress report. We have the USB and aux ran into this area here. The Bluetooth mic is right up here by the mirror. What else we got?
That's it.
Just need this?
That's it.
All right, let's plug that in and get the radio on the dash. Now, the harness for the radio has a bunch of extra things that we're not gonna be using. Really, all we need is these two here. So what you wanna do is tuck as much stuff up into this area here as possible, get it up and out of the way. You wanna hide as much of this so you have very little harnessing here. You don't want them dangling behind the radio, because this is a super tight fit up against this bar. Now that's where we're gonna go ahead and ground this guy. Now let's get the radio in. All right, like always, let's go ahead and give it a test run. See how it opens. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn the key off at this point. We're gonna unplug the airbag. I'm gonna go put that in the fascia panel. All right, there we go. We have it all in and looking good. We have the color match, so we have the orange lights all the way up and down. Now he had the wood grain because it was the Rockford. He opted for the silver because it matches the silver that's over here, so it kind of flows and pulls all together. All right, guys, we're done with the Titan. As always, on to the next one. So next on the list is a Toyota RAV4, this car right here. Now, question, how many cups do you need in a car? So we got one in the door, we got two in the center console. You do have a plate in the back seat, that's full of stuff. We've already emptied the back of the car there. Just spend 5 minutes and clean out your cars before you take them to get work done. Ooh. It'll make the people who work on your car that much happier. Nothing stinks worse than us having to root through your stuff.
Underwear.
Underwear is always a pleasure. Yeah, good call with that one. Love the underwear.
I don't, seriously.
Oh, you know you do. So what we're doing in this is he's already got an amplifier we put in a previous. It's hooked up high level. We're putting in a new radio. We're gonna run an RCA to the amplifier. Let's get started. So in the center console, he has an aux jack. So that's what this little plug is here. We're gonna go ahead and retain that. Otherwise, it's just a standard 1761. Nothing too fancy there. He's got this giant pocket down here. We'll probably have the USB come out of there. Let's just get over to the bench and start wiring this thing up and building the dash kit. Sound like fun? I hope so. All right, so we're using a BK TOYK 994. All right, so it comes with like all of them, a pocket and a trim ring. We're gonna do doubled in though, so we want this one. Gonna go ahead and cut out the brace across the center. Now to do that, we like to use these. These are just flush cut. These are the same thing we use to cut the zip ties. They do a really nice job cutting that bracket out of there. Now this trim is directional. There's a top and a bottom on it, because one end is fatter than the other. It also has a burr. I'm gonna break these off. Now the kit came with these two little guys here. These are for the top mount to secure the radio in place. That's what these two brackets are for here. And then these little screws here, these four guys here. It is a type 1 Phillips or a head 1 or whatever you want to call it. All right, when you're putting metal brackets like this onto these, don't expect them to stay clipped if you put this in more than once. Chances are good you're gonna pull this out and it's gonna fall right off. So what you wanna do for that, go ahead and add a little bit of your glue to it. Some super glue will work fine to the head. Just like this. And go ahead and squeeze these things on. And now you can go ahead and just let them air dry if you like. If you're using super glue, you can put some CA glue on there. You can do whatever you like. But these, it's gonna be a while before they actually get used, so I'm just gonna let them air dry. Now we'll go ahead and attach. All right, this one's all set. Now for this one, we're gonna go ahead and retain its factory aux input. And to do that, we're gonna start with a standard aux jack. Go ahead and pull off about, I don't know, 18 inches of it. Cut it. Save the other half for if you ever have to do another one of these. Then strip some of the ends. Go ahead and get that all the way off. Now what we want to do is take this into the car. Now we are going to need a tool to accomplish this. We're going to need a digital multimeter with continuity tester. So continuity is this guy right here. It's this little thing, and what it does is when you attach, I want to kill this guy in the lawnmower. So let's go ahead and take this in the car and we'll figure this out. Apparently they didn't get the memo that we're filming, so they don't need to just keep going back and forth in front of the install bay doors with weed eaters, blowers, and lawnmowers for an hour. It's okay. All right, we're in the car. Now what we want to do is go ahead and open up the armrest and plug our newly cut aux into the factory aux input. Now what we're gonna do is go ahead and take one of the wires and wrap it around our test probe. It doesn't matter, red or black, it's okay. We're gonna take our other test probe and go up into the dash and start probing wires to see if we can find that particular wire. So we do know it's in the harness, and by pulling off this little thing here, we can see there's actually a full shielded wire that is attached to. So now what we want to do is write down the color of wire that we have down here and the color of wire we have up here, so then when we're done probing, we can just go ahead and match those colors up. So this wire is white and our wire down here is yellow. So we'll just write white to yellow. Now we'll move on to the next one. All right, so now that we know all our colors, we can go ahead and strip these back, and we can go ahead and attach our wires to these wires, and then we'll solder them in place. All right, now once you get your wires all soldered up, make sure you go ahead and insulate them. All right, so now we'll go ahead and add a layer of regular Tessa tape to it, just to re-insulate it. So now we can go ahead and plug this into our aftermarket radio, and we can still use the factory aux input. All right, so we know the FM works. We're gonna go in here. He's got a subwoofer. So we're gonna go ahead and set up his crossover. Go ahead and turn the high pass on. He has factory 6.5s. So we're gonna go ahead and move him up to about 120, both front and rear. And then we'll go ahead and leave the sub at 80. And we're also gonna go in and adjust his background and color. Now you can always go back and change it, but at least when he gets in the car, it's gonna match. And then the last thing we wanna do, as always, is set the clock. So the radio's all set. Go ahead and screw it in. So the radio's in the dash and done. And normally I'd be excited and I'd be like, yeah, we can get this thing out of here, guy. No, can't do that yet. Why, you ask? Because I still got the dead body to put back in the trunk. Why do you carry empty water bottles? And of course you can't forget the 6 cups that were in the cup holder. Well, 3, but you know.